Hey guys, welcome to a mid-season episode of the of Collingwood Connection. I'm Will, joined by the Fossil there in Patterson Lakes. How's your Saturday been, Foss?
Yeah, not too bad, Will. Yeah, a bit blowy, a bit cool, but anyway, at least we'll be happy this weekend. The Pies aren't playing, so the boys, everybody can relax and enjoy themselves this weekend. But yeah, we just thought we'd have a bit of a look at the season review and how we're going so far, and have a little bit of a chat about the squad, and hopefully we can steer a few in the right way and we get it right.
Yeah, exactly. Gives us a bit of a reset, as I'm sure the players and all the coaches and that will as well. So, we did a mid-season player ratings, just our little opinion on how the club's going and individual players. Look at some of them for do they fit into our plans going forward as of next year. Obviously, Fossil and I are just couch coaches, so we'll see how close we are by the end of the year to where these players will be. But for Collingwood season so far, I'll get Fossil's rating in a second, but I've given us a 5 out of 10 as of round 14. So I love these bye rounds, Fossil. It's they should just do one in the middle, let the whole league reset. But anyway, 5 out of 10 for me for the Magpies. They've had 5 wins, a draw, 7 losses, and a percentage of 99. So pretty much even with that for and against. We average 82 points a game, which isn't too bad, but we used to be a lot better defensively. We're conceding 83 points a game. So it's fairly close, and I think that translates to our close losses this year. With margin of 1 to 12. We've had those 2 close wins against Carlton, a shot after the siren, of course, and he missed that, and West Coast, the big one for Scott Pendlebury. We've had that draw against Hawthorn, but we've had 4 close losses, which Magpie supporters haven't been used to us losing the close ones, Fossil. But how have you seen the team as a whole so far?
Yeah, no, I'm about the same, William. I rated him a little bit, just about a 5.5. But like you were saying about the 83 points against is a little bit high. Well, but considering the amount of time the ball's been in our back line, I think they've done a magnificent job. I think it's the other end of the ground where we've got to get our act together. Like 83 is not too bad to get scored against. But like I said, the amount of time it's been in our back line, William, I think they've done a magnificent job. So we just got to get some scoring power up the other end of the ground.
Yeah, well, defense does also start every position on the field. Like if you've kicked it behind and they've got the kick out, a few years ago, Bobby Hill, McCreary, he was in much better form, but we had our pressure kings, and that's where defense starts. I played a lot of basketball growing up, and there's no excuse for anyone not to play defense. And if you get it right from that forward pressure, which, back in the 2010 era, pretty much from then up to Buckley's era, we were renowned for that high pressure forward team that just wouldn't let the opposition get out. So I think we've lacked a bit there recently, and obviously that hasn't translated to getting wins on the board. So anyway, there's a few players to get through. We won't go through every single one. Obviously, some players haven't played, or unfortunately, they've had a few injuries. So the Fossil will do the odd numbers. I'll do the even numbers. So Fossil, we'll kick it away with you for Paddy Lipinski.
Yeah, with Lipinski William, yeah, he's averaging 20 disposals, Will, but compared to last year, his kicking inside 50 has been absolutely Scheisenhausen. So I've given him a rating of 5.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah, it hasn't quite been the heights of last year. It was around the time, and I don't want to translate it to when Collingwood started losing it last season, but that game against Gold Coast up there, and Lipinski was rested, and prior to that, he was the best kick inside 50. About 52% of his kicks were translating to marks inside 50. So bit of a drop off, and yeah, he obviously just hasn't gone to better things this season. I'll go to Goey, number 2 there. I give him a 7 out of 10 so far, Fossil this year. He's averaging 20 touches and a goal. There's questions about him. Do we sign him because of the free agency or see what he's worth? But for me, I think you got to reward the effort because when a lot of players have been out of form, especially recently, De Goey's been standing up, and whether that's anywhere from the back line helping us win the ball and get the ball forward, or getting on the end. He unfortunately missed that chance against Melbourne late, but he was probably out on his legs after running around all day. So no, I can't can't knock the goey, and I think the Pies should sign him on. He probably wants a 2-year deal, so hopefully the Pies can sign him on and he can keep going in the form he's in.
No worries. Yeah, no, I think you're right there, Will. If he keeps his body in check, he's still a very important player. But yeah, number three I've gone is Quanar William. I've rated him an 8 out of 10. I think he's had a magnificent season so far. He's been very good, very consistent. Plays on the smalls, Will, plays above his body weight. Beautiful mark. Good kick for ball, good kicks the ball well. And I think, he runs to the open spaces and he sets up a lot of the attacks. So I think he's had a magnificent season. So I've given him 8.
Yeah, fair enough. He's the same. Well, same with my next person, Maynard. I've given him an 8 out of 10, and heart and soul, and probably should be our next captain at least until that Tassie period comes in, and we might need to switch it over to Nick Dacos if that needs to keep him there. But he just leads from the front, and as we saw on the King's birthday, he doesn't shy away from putting his body on the line, and even for the rest of this season, they haven't opted for surgery, so. He's just going to push through the pain like he does, and he was still the one, winning those contests and trying to get the ball forward for us against Melbourne. So just shows his character, and I don't give a stuff what the rest of the opposition says. They don't like him, but we love having him at the Pies. So I think he's definitely our next captain, or I think he should be in my eyes. And yeah, he's looking forward to seeing him out there. Hopefully, second half of the season.
You're spot on there. Well, I tell you what, any other team in the league would have him, mate. I'm telling you, he's an absolute ripper. Next one is Jamie Elliott. Unfortunately, William, he's got himself injured, but he, compared to last season, he was sort of up and down. He was in and out a little bit and probably didn't mark as well as he did last year. Well, he seemed to be flying there and getting his hands on the ball, but he spilt a few, but he's very hard to rate. But I've given him a 5 because, he's not obviously not going to play till late next year. So I've given him a 5. Jamie Elliott.
Yeah, he's also competed against the much taller defenders. We've been lacking a bit of height, so I think he's trying
Mm.
to take those hangers. But yeah, unfortunately, that injury obviously sours it a bit. And hopefully, fingers crossed for all our injured guys with the ACLs, they can get back and be firing next year, Fossils. So, Josh Dacos, next for you.
Yeah, Josh Takos, William. Yeah, he's averaging 26 disposals, which is elite, Will, and his handball's also 10 a game, which is elite. And well, he can't do much more than he's doing at the moment. Maybe next year or the second half of the year, he might get a bit more time on the ball, depending how we're going. But I've given him an 8.5, William. I think he's had a great season so far.
Yeah, I think he's getting a lot more attention into him. I'll slightly disagree. I wouldn't rate him that high just because he's trying to be dealing with that tag, but he just hasn't seemed to have the impact. Like stages of the game, he has gone missing a little bit. Like he does average, like you said, 26 odd disposals, but maybe they do need to make that shift into the midfield to, keep the opposition guessing a bit more. But he showed us in patches last year that he can really have an impact. I'd probably give him a 7 so far. He just doesn't seem like he's been as damaging this year as in previous years. So but yeah, hopefully getting released into that midfield along with his brother and De Goey and Anderson, these sort of guys, they can take a bit of that pressure off. And we need to find ourselves a nice half backer, maybe whether that's Ryan or Parker. We need someone to come in and really fill some big shoes. But yeah, that might just free him up a bit. Anyway, my next one was Schultzy there, number 8, the pressure king. I rated him 7.5 out of 10. He just doesn't stop trying every week. He's averaging a goal a game and been playing a lot taller, as you've pointed out recently, Fossil. He's having to take big contested marks, and he probably only stands about 177 odd centimeters. So yeah, he's playing above his height, and but he just doesn't stop trying, and has clung some marks too, which is added to his bag of tricks. So second year and third year now, but he's absolutely flying. Each week you just know what you're going to get.
I couldn't agree more with him. If they all played like Devon with his desperation each week, mate, I'll tell you what, we'd be in a lot better position we are. Now I've got the man number 9, Houston. Gets plenty of the ball, Will. Gets averages 22. And he's averaging 6 marks a game, but that's fine when you're by yourself. But he needs to go harder at the ball, Will, when we haven't got the pill. He's a backman, and we need more tackling out of him, and I think that's part of his game where he can probably pick up, and hopefully he does it in the second half of the year. Like he distributes well, marks well, but when there's a loose pill there, we've got to go in harder with him, and that's unfortunately cost us a couple of games, not just him, but a few other players as well. So I've given him a 6 because he did start off the season well.
Oh, you've gone a bit higher than myself. I still like I feel like I've been very harsh now, but I think in terms of what we're paying him and what we should expect, and people have said we're killing him on the half back, and yeah, maybe we could push him up to the wing, but now with a few injuries and Maynard, probably out for a bit too, we need him to step up, and he's had a terrible last 5 weeks. He had that hot purple patch of form. I think the last good game was against Hawthorn, but since then he's been terrible, just lack of confidence. And I gave him a 3. I'll probably bump that up to a 4. It seems a bit harsh now, but for 900 odd K and how much we gave up for him, we need a lot more out of Dan right now. So hopefully the second half of the season he can get rolling. And then I've got the ageless Pendles. I've given him an 8 out of 10 fossil, which isn't bad for a 38-year-old. For obvious reasons. A lot of talk about that milestone celebration, but look, Collingwood people will look back forever on that occasion and how many people they got to the MCG to celebrate it against West Coast, and they won by 10 points, so it all made sense in the end. And of course, that incredible fourth Anzac Day medal he got against the Bombers, who, me and you don't like them very much, and best on ground performance and absolutely stuck it up him. So he's probably got another 2 to 3 seasons if he chooses Fossil, but that's obviously up to Pendles. He might want to look at the coaching ranks soon enough. He's got the football brain. So yeah, hopefully a couple more years of Pendles.
Yeah, no, very good, William. Yeah, no, he is. And it's not just that too, Will. It's what he's teaching the young fellas on the ground too, which I think is a big plus. He's always talking to them and pointing to go here, go there. So we're just very lucky to have a champion like him. Well, I've got Dan McStay. Uh, Probably needs to. It's not his fault. I think it's the way our forward line is structured. William, he seems to be up the ground a long way from goal to get his kicks and get his marks. So I'm not. I don't think it's all his fault. I think we need a three-prong attack because if he's leading up, we need somebody back in the square, and he probably needs to stay in the games a little bit more. I know it's hard because we haven't been delivering the ball well, but if he's going to be up the ground, we need another guy to stay in the square. So I've given him a 5. He's had a few good games. But then a couple of the other games, it's not all his fault, but he's too far up the ground to be a damaging forward.
Yeah, I won't keep going into every player, but I gave him a 7 Fossil. I think he's performed above. He's ultimately a third tall, and we're treating him as if he's our main full forward there, and he takes the best defender most weeks. So I've given him a 7. I think his effort's been there every week, and he's actually been pretty accurate in front of the big sticks, which is nice when a lot of the team hasn't been able to perform. So Perryman 8.5 out of 10. He's ever reliable, just like Pendlebury. And I think we missed him for that block of games when he was out. We lost a few close ones, and he's the sort of player that can be the difference. He's a Swiss Army knife. You can get him to tag or put him down in defence, and he really locks down. So, yeah, with obviously potentially Maynard out and that, he'll be playing that sort of role now. So, yeah, ever reliable Perriman. He's had a pretty good year.
Yeah, no worries. Well, yeah, well, my next one's Demaria Will. Well, he's only still developing, but I think he's fallen a long way behind the pack and might struggle to get a game because of the likes of Anderson and these sort of blokes. I think they've gone past him, Ed Allen Long. So might be lucky to be on the list next year.
If he gets a game, Fossil, I think he's gone. He unfortunately hasn't shown us much unless he happens to turn it around in 12 weeks, but it's highly doubtful. So, yeah, unfortunately, no for Demadia. And I've got DC, Darcy Cameron, 6 out of 10. Not as good, obviously, last year, the Copeland Trophy season, but he hasn't been helped by the rule changes. And also, they had a nice 1-2 punch going with Steen, but unfortunately, he's done his ACL, so a lot more pressure back on Cameron. He's had little chop outs from the likes of Buller and Long, but it's not going to really, give him that sort of break that he needs. And also, he goes forward, he goes back, he tries to do everything. And as Magpie fans know, he'll try his guts out every week. So DC will continue battling on, but hasn't been a pretty year with those rule changes, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, well said, Will. No, he's been magnificent. I've got young Parker next with him. I know he's still learning, and early days they give him a couple of good tagging roles on good players, and he did a very good job. But I think, it's like most of the guys, Will, it's getting 4 or 5 games in a row. Like he's been in and out, and I'll tell you what, if they ain't give him a decent crack in the second half of the year, I'm sure there'll be other clubs having a look at him.
Yeah, well, he was, people thought he might be our replacement for Howe, but Jeremy Howe's playing pretty well at the moment. He might sign another year soon, but yeah, Parker, he just hasn't had a fair crack at it. So whether that's him not developing, whether that's just the coaching staff and their opinion, but hopefully he gets a crack. And yeah, I think he's a pretty reliable player, but needs to be on the park to prove that. Ed Allen, I've got the next one. I gave him a 6 out of 10. He was a bit cold early days and didn't really know where he was, but they finally figured out that he's not a winger fossil, and you feel for him. He's hard to come into a senior side and not really know your position, but let's just hope he stays now because he started to become that inside midfielder that we were desperate for. His best game, the latest game against Melbourne, he was absolutely great. I think 21 touches and was really that run and drive we needed to get forward. He did pretty well against the Bulldogs the week prior as well. He's played 4 games in a row, so keep pumping those games into him, and let's hope he doesn't leave. But if he did, that's only going to add to his price tag. So there's no harm in them just playing him from now on, Fossil. And let's just hope that a few of these senior players move on, maybe Sidey at the end of the year, that Alan can then take on that responsibility and really give us what we're after.
Yeah, no, well said, Will. Yeah, that was the same with him and Anderson. I told you that early days, Will. I don't like pumping up my tyres, but when you're playing midfielders on the wing, it doesn't work, mate. And ever since you put him and Anderson in the middle of the ground, I think they've been very good, and they're going to be very good. Like you said, I hope we keep him and Anderson. They're going to be the future of that midfield. But
Billy Frampton
yeah,
Foss.
yeah, next one, yeah, Frampton, I've given him 9.5, William. He's had a magnificent season. He's held that back line together. And it's just not his marking and kicking, Will, but he's spoiling and making room for the other players. I think he's blocking, he's been absolutely magnificent. So 9.5 for Frampton.
Yeah, he's been great, old Billy, and got off, thankfully, Fossils, so we can breathe
So he
easy.
should have.
I
So he
was
should have, Will.
I would have absolutely lost it if he did. So, Printable, Giath, and Smith, unfortunately, we haven't seen this year. The next one is Steen, Fossil.
Oh, find of the season. Well, it was so bad that he went down injured, the poor bugger. I gave him a 10, William. I thought he was absolutely magnificent. Worked well with Cameron, and he was the sort of bloke that we needed. We could put down in the square to take the mark, Will. And he's a good mark, and he kicked a couple of goals in one of the games. Huge loss, William, but I gave him a 10. I thought he was magnificent.
Yeah, very exciting for years to come. Hopefully, we can keep him in there, Foss, and keep developing. So, side bottom has been a bit of a sour note this year. A 4 out of 10. A lot saying he should have hung up the boots last year, and I'm starting to agree, Foss. Unless he produces a big second half of the season, he should be fresh and ready to go. So we'll find out soon enough. They'll chuck him in the side and. Hopefully, he just finds that bit of energy. He just seems like he's been in and out of form, and if it wasn't for his status, he probably wouldn't have played as many games early days. But a club legend, and saying all that, he's a 2-time Premiership star and helped us desperately in that 2023 Grand Final. So he deserves a crack to leave everything out there. So best of luck, and hopefully Steele can give us a big finish.
Yeah, that's right, William. Yeah, well said. Yeah, the next one's Bobby Hill. Well, he hasn't played much at all, Will, but I think he'll be the X factor in the second half of the season. So hopefully after the bye, they'll find a spot for him because we need him firing.
Yeah, and same with Ryan. I think he's actually played good enough form the last couple of weeks that if they're going to move Josh Dacos up, they can get him into the side and be that half-back flanker. I know it's a big jump and he hasn't played much games, but you're never going to know unless they get in there. So we might see a
Yeah,
bit more Ryan the second half of the season. And Jack Chris Fossil,
yeah, very good season, William. I've rated him a 7.5. He's averaging 22 disposals, 4.3 tackles, and he's been very good, crispy. So he's having a very consistent season, playing well.
yeah, another heartbreak story, McInnes ACL, and your thoughts go out to him. And I'm hoping that with him Steen and Elliott, they can all work hard together and really come firing into the year 2027 to give the team a bit of a boost. So fingers crossed for those guys. Cochrane, we haven't seen yet. The next one, Timmy Membry. 4 out of 10 Fossil, the Marvel specialist, as we like to call him. He's kicked 7 of his 12 goals for the year. Only over 2 games he's kicked those 7 goals. So maybe they just play him every time we play at Marvel. But biggest problem, he just seems to go missing Fossil, where we see him kick a goal or two earlier on in the game, and then you might not see him pop up until the fourth quarter. And last week against the Demons, he had his opportunities, had about 3 shots at goal from 45 out and couldn't kick any of them, which really just, in a close contest, that's the difference between winning and losing. And he's an absolute sharpshooter, so you normally back him in, but it just seems like when he's away from Marvel, you don't get that same consistency and output. So I reckon this might be his last year. I know that might sound harsh, but if we're going to get some games and experience into these younger guys, then the likes of Membry need to move on, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there, Will, because the next player is Weston. He's one of those guys, I think, with him and Buller and maybe a couple of the younger guys, they've got to start playing and they just need game time. But yeah, I didn't score Westy because he hasn't played enough, but I think they're the guys that are going to be the future, Will.
Yeah, we don't know unless you try, Foss. So Darcy Moore, it's been a year for the captain Fossil. He's been in and out through injury, and it now looks like a desperate throw at the stumps to get him right for the second half of the season. So I'm going to give credit to the staff and all that. They're obviously still trying to get what they can out of this season. They're not putting the queue in the rack by any means, or else we wouldn't see Maynard, Moore, these sort of guys, try to get rehab to come back. So. Whether that's a right call or not, we'll find out. But yeah, they're going to give it a crack, and it's a massive hole to fill. Unfortunately, it's made Jeremy Howe change his position, even though he's performing well. But when you got Frampton and Moore, and then Jeremy Howe's your third tall defender, they haven't had that consistency enough to play together, unfortunately. So a lot of things just haven't panned out for us this year. But in the off season, Pies, you need to recruit a centre half back, a full back, someone just to fill that hole, because it's just you get desperate, especially against those clubs with 3 tall forwards. You're just going to be found wanting, and they'll start clunking everything. So anyway, it's been an off year, but hopefully Darcy can turn around second half of the season.
No worries. Yeah, well, next one is Macquarie, Will. I've given him a 5.5, Will. His tackling's been absolutely magnificent. But I think the biggest problem is, Will, he seems to be in and out of the game a lot, and we really need him to, if he can, to kick a couple of goals. He's down on his goal count this year. So I've given him 5.5, brilliant tackling, but we need a couple of goals out of him, Will.
Well, just quickly, I've actually rated him a 4 Fossil. He was, yeah, it just hasn't been that same sort of level, and he was really good. Obviously, a couple of years ago, we were getting the pressure up the ground, and then when they released him in that forward half, and he could get the ball into deep positions, attacking positions, 20, 30 meters out from goal, that was the bread and butter with McCreary. But someone suggested that maybe they move him to half back, and I don't think that's the worst option, but it's probably his kicking disposal that might let him down. But maybe he can be a bit like a Markov, just get the ball, chip kicking, and then run on and try and get that burst of pace from half back. So I'd like to see the Pies throw him around a bit and just see, maybe he can give us something that we haven't tried yet. And I know that leaves our forward line vulnerable, but you might be able to find someone else to pop up, like what's his name, a Saxena, to take over and fill in that sort of role. So anyway,
Yeah, no, that's good. It's a good point, William. Yeah, well, I did that with Leon Davis years ago too, William. And like you said, he's got that pace and run, and then that releases Dacos, and then we're not losing any from the halfback. But that could be one of your good moves of the year, William.
yeah, well, I
Next
heard it.
one.
I'm not going to take full credit. I heard that from somebody else, Fossils. So anyway, we'll see how that goes. Swaddling, we haven't seen yet, but could be very close. I dare say after the bye. And Lockie Sullivan's been playing pretty well in the VFL. So they're all sort of, same with Ryan, they're all putting their hand up. So it'll be interesting to selectors stick with the same sort of program they have, or do they give these guys an opportunity to show what they've got? I think they probably should do the latter, but we'll wait and see. Jack Buller. So My score might not really reflect how I see Jack Buller this year, but I've given him a 5 out of 10. But I've actually been pretty happy with his effort, Fossil. His new club, so you're trying to find the new game style, new teammates, but he's also been thrown in the ruck a lot more than he probably thought he would be. And yeah, he's, has shown some signs. He's able to clunk the ball like he did against Melbourne on the weekend. He can take a good contested grab, especially when he's one-on-one. And I would persist through the second half of the year with him. I think he's starting to find his feet, and he's played a couple of games back to back. Oh, sorry, he didn't play the week before, but give him a couple of games, two, three games in a row, just to get used to that, ball coming in, and yeah, just get used to his teammates a bit more. So yeah, I'd like to see them persist with Bullard just a bit more.
Yeah, no, good point, Will. Yeah, I think like with him and Weston, a couple of the other young guys, they're going to be the future. And like you said, give them a few more games. Now we'll get on to number 35. I don't know if you know who 35 is for Collingwood. He's not a bad player. I've given him 10, mate. I'll tell you what, it's just a pleasure to watch him play every week, Will. He just runs and runs and runs, works both ends of the ground. He's probably missed a couple of goals he normally gets, but I think that's just through tiredness with him because he runs so hard. So, yeah, we're just very lucky to have him, and hopefully we keep him for a long time. Well, so 10 for Nick.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. And he runs himself into the ground. 34 over 34 disposals a game and a goal. So if he continues on this path, he'll be in those high end of the awards. But anyway, we won't get into that this episode. Harrison, 5 out of 10. Great to see young Harvey back, and he's given us that little bit of spark, Fossil, especially the game against Melbourne. He was a lot more involved, and I'm very excited for what's to come with him. Zach McCarthy, we haven't seen yet. Jeremy Howe, like I said earlier, I gave him a 7.5 out of 10. He's been one of those veterans that's absolutely performing above and beyond what we expected this year, and he's probably top five in the Copeland at the moment. So Jeremy Howe might be getting that extra, if he wants to play, that extra year extension on his contract. So well done there for Jeremy. And Will Hayes, Foss.
Yeah. He's had a few good games, Will, but I think he'll be like fighting for a spot with the types of Steele and Harrison and these sort of guys, Will. So I think he's one of those guys. If he gets his chance, he's got to make most of his opportunities because there's a few young ones there that can to play that half forward role. And yeah, so hopefully the young fellow he gets a good crack at it. And like I said, it's good if you've got players fighting for spots and makes them, really fight for their spots. And, once they're in, they've got to make the most of their opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. There's a few of them in that pool, whether they're, going to get games or really pushing for selection. So hopefully he has a better second half of the season. Noah Howes, we haven't seen. I thought we might have, and then unfortunately he got struck down with injury. So we'll see how the second half plays out for him. Anderson Fossil.
Yeah, no, he's showing great signs, Will. He's like my boy Alan. I told you these two would be good midfielders, but now they're playing him in the right spot. He kicks the ball well, and he looks like he's getting more confidence every week too, Will. And I think, they know their roles like they do at the Pies. They give them certain jobs to do, but I think like him and Alan, they're going to be the future midfielders. We're very pleased with him, very happy.
Well, let's hope Alan stays around for it, Fossil. It'll be a good 1-2 punch. No, number
Exactly.
42, as we know, Jai Saxena, Foss.
Yep.
Hasn't played a game yet, so we won't worry about that one. Ned Long, the guy you mentioned, so 6 out of 10. Might feel like that's a little bit high, but he's been hot and cold, much like Buller this year, though they've played him out of position, and it's hard when you don't get a consistent crack at it. He was BOG in the VFL for us last week, so I reckon after the bye he'll be back in the side, and hopefully they just keep him as that inside bull, and Anderson's probably more that half forward. They'll push him down. So he's not a forward, Ned Long, and he's definitely not a ruckman, Fossil. So let's keep him out of those positions and see what he
Yeah.
can do in the middle.
Yeah, no, you're spot on there, Will. And I think, like you said, with Allen and Anderson in the middle now, maybe Will they might just pick a role for him when they play a side with a big bull and he might get a tagging role on him. But like you said, he's not a ruckman, not a backman. So it might depend who they play on their team selection with him. And but like he has a crack and gives his best shot, but I think they've got to pick probably the player that he's got to play on.
Fair call. And you're my boy, Rowan Steele, Fossil.
Oh, absolutely, mate. I'll tell you what, this bloke's got a future. I'll tell you what, William, he's quick and he covers the ground, mate. He's been an absolute ripper. And like these younger ones, if they can get 4 or 5 games like he does, William. But I've given him a 7. I'm very happy with him, and he gives his all. Couple of times there he's been missed. Well, he might be too quick for the other blokes, but he's been out by himself, and unfortunately never got the pill. But no, he's going to be good. He's going to be a good player.
Yeah, not bad for a mid-season pickup there, Rowan. A couple more minutes here, Foss. So Padaski, number 46, we saw him debut when he kicked a goal in his first game, but not much to go off otherwise. Hopefully they do persist with him and maybe a combination with Buller and McStay, Padaski as a third tall. I reckon that could work well, but uh, very hard to draw off just that one game and a big occasion in front of 88,000 for your first game. So well done. I guess he held it together and kicked that goal. So that was something to take out of it. Puncher, obviously we haven't seen. We might see him sooner than later. Fossil and the Ruckman Co as well. Mid-season pickups there who haven't debuted yet. We got a little bit of time, Foss. Do you want to run through your squad of your young players, or leave that for another
No,
time?
well, I thought we might do our. I thought we might do our best wins and best losses. What do you think about that? Good
Yeah,
idea.
fire away,
Yeah,
Fossil. You got
well,
the
I think
floor.
probably our bit. Well, Essendon was our biggest win, but I think probably against St Kilda, like they really struggled and struggled and struggled, and we ended up getting the chocolates because their wins is not too many highlights. But I like the way that they kept fighting against St Kilda because they're expected the big things this year. And probably our worst loss, William, it wasn't a loss, it was a draw, William, but we threw that game away against Hawthorn, allowed
Yeah.
them easy goals in the time on 30 seconds to go, 25 seconds to go. That was shocking. I was very disappointed after that game, and I think that was our worst. Well, not our worst effort, but the one that we should have won.
Yeah, it's been a year of frustration, which is a really hard pill to swallow. It's like 2024, a lot of Collingwood supporters have linked it to that year where we just didn't seem like it was all working for us. We've had that draw, we've had 4 or 5 close losses. So, it really does sting coming to the back end of the year. You imagine that you could be pushing on the door of top four, but we're now fighting for a chance just to play the wild card round. So, yeah, it's a really hard season to gauge. Well, my favourite win, I don't mind knocking off the rivals. So absolutely smashing the Bombers. Well, that was a nice, easy watch on Anzac Day. And the Blues, a goal, a missed shot, sorry, after the siren to draw the game, but just rubs a bit of extra salt there into the arch rival, their Fossils. So they're my two favourite wins. And the worst loss, I think it was just performance-wise, was that game against Geelong, where from the second quarter, we had a couple of chances. We didn't really take them. Geelong kicked a couple just to keep us at bay, but that second half was probably the worst half of football I've seen in a long time. The Pies barely fired a shot, and the Cats just seemed to do whatever they pleased after that. So it was pretty frustrating, but let's just hope there's a lot more positive than negative going to the second half of the season. So, last question before we wrap up. Fossil, where do you think you see us finishing? And is a wild card rounds in question here, or are we looking towards the future
Well,
for
I think that,
2027?
yeah, sorry. Well, I think, yeah, probably the next 4 weeks is going to decide. Well, we've got to win our next four. If we don't, she's good night nurse, and then we can start playing the younger players. So I think we've got, who we got? Well, we got
So
North.
we mapped this out. No, we got, well, I'll run you through Fossils. So hold on a sec. We got Port Adelaide at home. That's next Saturday night, 7:35. So hopefully winning that. And Richmond, no games guaranteed. You got Richmond the week after. That's on a twilight game at 4:15. The hard trip to Gold Coast up there, round 17. We don't seem to play too crash hot up there. And the week after that, yeah, that Friday night game, a rare Friday night for North Melbourne. So hopefully that spooks them, Fossil. But yeah, North Melbourne the week after that.
Well, I don't think, William, if we can't win those 4 games, we probably don't deserve to be there. So I think, because they've lost them so many close games, you've got to beat the sides like Gold Coast and these sort of teams to have any chance whatsoever. So I think the next 4 weeks will be big to, see how we go for the rest of the year.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of Collingwood supporters are with you there, Foss. So thanks, guys. Thank you all for messaging in as always. And our competition, that'll be back next week. The fossils let me add a bit more money to a bit more dough fossils, so we'll go on to a $40 voucher for the Port Adelaide game next week. So I dare say we'll do a preview episode on the Friday, possibly, or maybe late Thursday, and give you our predictions and all that, and then we'll put up the competition there for Saturday for everyone to have a crack, and hopefully we can get a second voucher one this year for us.
Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah, no, William was great. Great show, Will. Well done.
So I hope, and let us know what you think, guys. Any players that we might have got wrong, or in your opinion, players that we might need to get rid of going into 2027. So, as always, go Pies, and we'll catch you all next week.
No worries. See you, Will. Go Pies.
See you, mate. Bye.
Bye.